During the holiday season, we observe many personal traditions, like watching our favourite Christmas movies, listening to carols, or perhaps reciting this familiar poem, which begins with the famous line, "'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse." But what is the history behind this classic poem? The authorship of A Visit is credited to Clement Clarke Moore, who is said to have composed it on a snowy winter's night during a shopping trip on a sleigh. His inspiration for the character of St. Nicholas was a local Dutch handyman, as well as a historic St. Nicholas. Moore originated many of the features that are still associated with Santa Claus today, while borrowing other aspects, such as the use of reindeer. The poem was first published anonymously in the Troy, New York Senetal on the 23rd of December 1823, having been sent there by a friend of Moore, and was reprinted frequently thereafter with no name attached. It was first attributed in print to Moore in 1837. Moore himself acknowledged authorship when he included it in his own book of poems in 1844. By then, the original publisher and at least 7 others had already acknowledged his authorship. Moore had a reputation as a serious scholarly professor, and had not wished at first to be connected with the unscholarly verse. He included it in the anthology at the insistence of his children, for whom he had originally written the piece. Though Moore is generally accepted as the author of this classic, there are some advocates who credit the poem to Major Henry Livingston Jr. Livingston also wrote poetry primarily using the anapaestic metrical scheme, and it is claimed that some of the phraseological of A Visit is consistent with other poems by Livingston, and that Livingston's poetry is more optimistic than Moore's poetry published in his own name. But the scholar Stephen Nissenbaum argues in his Battle for Christmas that the poem could have been a social satire of the Victorianisation of Christmas. Other evidence points out that Moore tried at first to renounce the poem, and that Moore once falsely claimed to have translated the book. Historian Seth Keller examined the book in question, as well as many letters signed by Moore, and found that the signature was not penned by Moore, and thus provides no evidence that Moore made any unoriginal claim. Further evidence is that Livingstone's mother was Dutch, which accounts for the references to the Dutch tradition, and the use of Dutch names Dunder and Bliksem, or as we know them, Donna and Blitzen. MacDonald P. Jackson, a professor of English at the University of Auckland, has spent his entire academic career analysing authorship attribution. He has written a book titled Who Wrote the Night Before Christmas, published in 2016, in which he evaluates the opposing arguments and, for the first time, uses the author attribution techniques of modern computational stylistics to examine the long-standing controversy. Jackson employs a range of tests and introduces a new one: statistical analysis of phonemes. He concludes that Livingstone is the true author of the classic work. Professor Donald Foster, who used textual content analysis and external evidence to argue that Moore could not have been the author. Foster's claim, however, has been countered by document dealer and historian Seth Keller, who once owned one of Moore's original manuscripts of the poem. Keller has offered a point-to-point rebuttal of both Foster's grammatical analysis and external findings, buttressed by the works of autograph expert James Lowe and Dr. Joe Nichol, author of Pen, Ink and Evidence. Further evidence for Moore is that he stated in a letter to the editor of the New York American, published on the 1st of March 1844, that he gave the publisher of the New York Book of Poetry several pieces, among which was the Visit from St. Nicholas, admitting that he wrote it not for publication but to amuse his children. Moore claimed the Christmas poem in this 1844 letter as his literacy property. However small, the intrinsic value of that property may be. Moore's conception of St. Nicholas was borrowed from his friend Washington Irving, but Moore portrayed his jolly old elf as arriving on Christmas Eve rather than Christmas Day. At the time Moore wrote the poem, Christmas Day was overtaking New Year's Day as the preferred genteel family holiday of the season, but some Protestants viewed Christmas as the result of Catholic ignorance and deception, and still had reservations. By having St. Nicholas arrive the night before, Moore shifted the focus away from Christmas Day, with its still problematic religious associations. As a result, New Yorkers embraced Moore's child-centred version of Christmas, as if it had been doing so all along. 4 handwritten copies of the poem are known to exist, and 3 are in museums, including the New York Historical Society Library. The 4th copy, written out and signed by Clement Clarke Moore as a gift to a friend in 1860, was sold by one private collector to another in December 2006. The poem has been called arguably the best known verses ever written by an American, and is largely responsible for some of the conceptions of Santa Claus from the mid-19th century to today. It has had a massive effect on the holiday of Christmas gift-giving. Before the poem gained wide popularity, American ideas had varied considerably about St. Nicholas and other Christmas-tide visitors. A visit from St. Nicholas eventually was set to music and has been recorded by many artists. Today, A Visit from St. Nicholas remains a festive favourite to recite by the fireside with family all around.